Hey, welcome. Today, we are diving into a really powerful idea called creative intelligence. It's basically a framework for how to find calm right in the middle of all the chaos, and it all kicks off with this one simple metaphor. So, yeah, let's dive in.
You felt it, right? That constant hum of activity, the never-ending notifications, the to-do lists that just seem to grow. It really makes you wonder, in a world that literally never stops, how on earth are we supposed to find any real rest, any true inner silence? Well, this explainer is going to walk through one framework for doing exactly that.
So the whole concept is built around this amazing metaphor, diving into water. Just picture it. There are two totally distinct movements. First, there's the inward stroke. That's when we dive deep down into ourselves. And then there's the outward stroke, when we surface back up into the world of action.
Now, these two strokes aren't separate ideas at all. They're two halves of the same cycle. That inward stroke, it's not about escaping, it's about diving deep, past the noisy thoughts to find this incredibly profound level of rest. And that very rest is what fuels the outward stroke. It lets us come back to our lives with more creativity, better alertness, and just, greater efficiency. It's a totally natural, effortless rhythm.
This whole process is guided by four foundational principles that kind of act like a roadmap. The first two, diving and self-purification, they're all about that journey inward. And the next two, glorifying the path and the coexistence of opposites, well, they're about how we bring all that inner experience back out into the world with us.
So, let's start with that first part of the cycle, the journey inward. This is where we get into those first two principles, starting, of course, with the dive itself.
And here's what's so cool. The mechanics are incredibly simple and completely automatic. As your mind naturally settles down, as it starts to experience these finer, quieter states of thought, it just gains this state of rest that's deeper than you can imagine. And it's in that profound state of rest that your nervous system finally gets a chance to do some housekeeping, It just automatically starts to release all that accumulated stress. This is such a wild idea. We always think of momentum as being about activity, about moving forward, right? But here, it's the rest that builds its own powerful momentum. It's almost like gravity just gently pulling a diver deeper and deeper. This kind of deep rest isn't passive at all. It's a dynamic, powerful state that gets the mind ready for the journey back out. And this leads us right to the principle of self-purification. Now, what's so important to get here is that this isn't about effort or forcing anything. It's just a natural consequence. The deep rest you get during the dive allows the body to purify itself, to dissolve the stresses that are blocking the full expression of your own creative intelligence.
Okay, so that's the inward journey. We've gone deep, we've rested, we've released stress. But what happens on the way back up? What's the outward stroke all about as we surface back into the world?
This is what's called the principle of glorification of the path. And it's a fancy name for a really simple, beautiful idea. The more you do it, the better it gets. As your creative intelligence starts to grow, the benefits become so much more obvious, which makes the whole process more enjoyable, more rewarding. It creates its own positive feedback loop.
And that brings us to the final principle, the coexistence of opposites. Just look at these pairs. We're pretty much taught to think of these as a conflict, right? You're either silent or you're active. You're resting or you're being efficient. But this framework says, no way. They don't just coexist, they actually empower each other. That inner silence is what supports dynamic action on the outside. Deep rest is what fuels your efficiency.
So what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, the outward benefits are super tangible. We're talking about being more alert, being more efficient at work, having quicker response times, thinking more deeply about things, and this is a big one, having more tolerance and a real ability to find harmony even when you're surrounded by differences. But the benefits don't just stop with us as individuals. The really huge idea here is that this inner harmony can actually start to ripple outward. So what happens when that personal balance starts to change how we relate to other people, and even to the world at large? The core idea is that the very same principle applies externally. Think about it. If you can create a healthy, clear line of communication between your own inner, silent world and your outer, active world, you can use that exact same skill to build better bridges between people, between whole societies, and even between nations. So, according to this source, the most powerful communication we have isn't intellectual. It's not about just exchanging words or data. It actually operates on the level of feeling from the heart. And this is described as the most direct,
the most penetrating way for us to really, truly connect with each other.
And the vision here is just so profound. When this kind of heart-to-heart communication becomes the norm, the world becomes a place where everyone, from all different backgrounds and nations, can actually feel at home with one another. It creates a world of spontaneous joy and harmony.
And to put a really fine point on the stakes here, just consider this powerful statement. It suggests that our collective suffering, our disconnection from each other, is so unnatural, so contrary to how things are supposed to be, that it would cause the creator of the universe to hide in shame. It's a really poignant call to action for us to create a better world.
So let's just end on a final thought that kind of reframes this whole idea. What if creativity isn't really about the things we make, the art, the music, the businesses, but about how we live? What if it's the art of designing a life where our inner peace is the very thing that fuels our outer effectiveness? Something to think about.